I don't care, you're lame. And them is lame too.
This didn't start as gossip. It started as a miscalculation. When Cardi B went nuclear on Offset, the internet treated it like another celebrity flare-up. But this wasn't chaos, it was combustion. And the spark. A moment on the Joe Budden podcast where Offset, relaxed and grinning, casually dismissed the women in his past with a line so brazen it sounded like historical revisionism. According to audience reaction trends and engagement spikes across X and TikTok, the clip didn't just go viral, it triggered something visceral. Because psychologically, people don't just react to disrespect, they react to erasure. At a human level, this lands because the public remembers the scandals, the apologies, the cheating headlines, the reconciliation tours. Data from recent media cycles shows Cardi's name consistently absorbed the reputational fallout during their marriage, while Offset often repositioned himself through reinvention narratives. So when he implied that none of his exes went up, critics argue he was simply talking career trajectories. Bravado, podcast banter, nothing more. But here's why that defense collapses under scrutiny. This wasn't about charts, it was about narrative ownership. It was about who gets to rewrite the past. And when you publicly diminish the woman who stood beside you through scandal after scandal, you're not cracking a joke, you're redrawing the power map. Cold analysis makes this clear. In the economy of celebrity culture, perception is currency, and Offset attempted a rebrand at someone else's expense. The Super Bowl whispers, the Stefon Diggs rumors, the side chick speculation, those were accelerants, not causes. The cause was control. Real versus fake. Authentic versus manufactured. People versus performance. This resonates because audiences are increasingly allergic to selective memory disguised as confidence. If this trend continues, the next cultural battles won't be fought over relationships, they'll be fought over credibility. And that's where the story stops being entertainment and starts becoming something far more uncomfortable.
I ain't never met none that I left went up, so I don't know how to experience.
None that I left went up. Let that sit there. Let it echo against documented history. Because when Offset said those words, he wasn't just flexing, he was gambling that the public has a short memory. But timelines don't forget. According to archived media reports and documented footage from late 2017, cheating allegations surfaced barely 3 months after his secret September wedding to Cardi B. 3 months. Before the marriage narrative even stabilized, scandal was already trending. Data from celebrity coverage cycles during that period shows Cardi absorbing the humiliation in real time. Pregnancy headlines intertwined with betrayal clips, apology tours blending with chart success. Cold analysis makes this unavoidable. The reputational damage ratio was never equal. He created the fires. She stood in them. Critics will argue this is just rap bravado, exaggerated masculinity packaged for podcast virality, especially on platforms like the Joe Budden podcast where shocklines are currency. But bravado collapses when confronted with receipts. This is the same man who interrupted her 2018 set at Rolling Loud with a public apology staged in roses, a spectacle that felt less like romance and more like crisis management. Psychologically, voters of culture, the audience, respond to patterns, not punchlines. And the pattern was clear: infidelity framed as lifestyle, accountability reframed as inconvenience, betrayal diluted into branding. So when he now positions himself as the departing architect of success, the disconnect is seismic. Because the woman he's subtly diminishing is a multi-platinum, Grammy-winning artist who stood on one of the largest stages in the world. The internet didn't react because they're invested in gossip. They reacted because they witnessed narrative theft in real time. Authentic versus manufactured. Real struggle versus retroactive confidence. And when Cardi went live on Instagram, her chosen battlefield, what poured out wasn't randomness. It was compounded pressure finally rupturing. At a human level, this lands because silence after disrespect feels like surrender. She didn't whisper. She detonated. And if this cycle continues, the next conflict won't be about who went up, it will be about who the culture believes. And that's where power quietly shifts.
Blocked you, even though I know you was gonna go to Atlanta, and I was like, I didn't want to know what you was doing out there. I told you I blocked.
That clip doesn't just expose drama, it exposes the architecture of the entire relationship. What you're watching isn't chaos, it's a pattern. Cardi B knew. Psychologically, she knew. According to recurring media reports and timeline patterns tied to Offset's trips back to Atlanta, speculation followed him like a shadow. And when Cardi blocked him, critics framed it as immaturity. But cold analysis suggests something else entirely: strategic self-preservation. She didn't block him because she was indifferent. She blocked him because confirmation is corrosive. At a human level, constant proof of betrayal fractures identity. Sometimes people don't avoid the truth because they're weak. They avoid it because they're trying to survive it. Through pregnancy, postpartum, public embarrassment, divorce filings in 2020, reconciliation cycles, and that 2023 Instagram accusation where Offset briefly flipped the script and implied she was unfaithful before deleting the post, the dynamic stayed the same. Accusation, deletion, denial, repeat. Data from engagement metrics during those moments shows spikes in commentary not about music, but about credibility. Real versus fake. Apology versus performance. Fans weren't reacting to gossip, they were reacting to repetition. Critics will argue this was a mutually toxic celebrity marriage. Two stars navigating fame under a microscope. And that's fair. High-profile relationships amplify dysfunction. But here's where that counterpoint weakens. One partner consistently absorbed public humiliation while the other consistently repositioned himself as misunderstood. Blocking. Silence. Selective ignorance. These weren't tantrums. They were psychological sandbags against a flood of disrespect. And when Offset sat comfortably on the Joe Budden podcast projecting himself as the departing prize, the man whose exes supposedly failed to go up, the power imbalance in the narrative became unbearable. Because when someone rewrites history in public, silence becomes complicity. So she went live again, not as spectacle, but as counterstrike. This resonates because people recognize the breaking point. They felt it in their own lives, the moment survival mode turns into revolt. If this continues, the next chapter won't be about reconciliation. It will be about narrative control in an era where receipts outlive romance. And that's where the illusion of dominance starts to crack.
I don't care, you're lame. And them is lame too.
Lame. That's the word she chose. Not toxic. Not narcissist. Not some sanitized therapy buzzword the internet throws around to feel smart. Lame. And in Cardi B's world, the Bronx, the streets, the culture, that word is nuclear. It annihilates every chain, every Instagram flex, every staged tough guy persona, every podcast bravado. Psychologically, it signals finality. You are no longer capable of wounding me. You and every woman you ever entertained while pretending to be my husband are beneath me. And she said it with her whole chest. Every syllable a demolition of ego. Critics might argue it's just slang, trivial, a pop culture quip. But culturally and psychologically, it lands harder than any lawsuit, any diss track, any viral clip. Offset either didn't understand the magnitude, or he understood it perfectly, which explains the audacity of that podcast. Because Cardi had been sitting on a volcano of regret, betrayal, and grief, dating back to 2017. From Selena Powell's resurfacing allegations to claims of abandonment during the pregnancy with Culture, the foundation of their relationship was a series of fissures Offset thought he could paper over. Data from past interviews and engagement spikes shows audiences have long perceived Cardi as the patient one, absorbing public humiliation while he reshaped the narrative in real time. When the dam finally broke, the eruption wasn't anger alone. It was grief, a raw, unfiltered force years in the making. And psychologically, that's why it resonates. Because we all recognize the moment when restraint turns to reckoning. If this pattern continues, celebrity culture will no longer reward charm or bravado. It will reward accountability, real, visible, undeniable. And that's where the illusion of untouchable power begins to crumble.
None of them. But you. I regret you. I'm too good for you. I've always been too good for you.
I regret you. I'm too good for you. I've always been too good for you. 3 words that aren't just statements, they are verdicts, carrying the weight of a marriage unraveling in full public view. According to court filings and birth records, Cardi B filed for divorce in July 2024 while giving birth to her daughter Blossom that September, navigating accusations, public smear campaigns, and emotional warfare in real time. And yet, the numbers don't lie. Awards, record-breaking albums, Super Bowl slots. The trajectory proves the woman Offset dismissed was not only thriving, she was untouchable in influence and accomplishment. Critics might argue that celebrity drama is inherently cyclical, that new relationships invite new chaos. But this next chapter, the Super Bowl, Stefon Diggs, and the appearance of Pri, Offset's alleged former mistress, elevates it beyond gossip into full-scale psychological warfare. By February 2026, Cardi had moved on, performing at the Super Bowl alongside Bad Bunny, glowing publicly with Diggs, and seemingly stabilizing her life. Yet the universe, or fate, or the cruel symmetry of karma, scripted the unthinkable. Pri, a ghost from Offset's past, appears in the friends and family section at the same stadium. Social media detonated. Fans, bloggers, Redditors, and gossip accounts collectively tried to parse the impossibility of it. Did Diggs know? Was this orchestrated? The layers of betrayal were almost absurdly precise, surgical in their timing. Exit polls of public sentiment indicate that audiences weren't just shocked, they felt the sting of deliberate humiliation, the mirror of past trauma reflecting onto a new relationship. Meanwhile, Offset, quiet, calculated, allegedly feeding strategic leaks to amplify Cardi's public exposure, had misjudged one crucial factor: Cardi does not fold. She does not retreat. She confronts. On Instagram Live, she exposed the patterns, the calculated strikes, the timing designed to exploit vulnerability, calling out behavior she has survived countless times before. Psychologically, this resonates because people recognize the tactic. Predators wait for low points, strike when restraint is weakest, and assume compliance. Cardi's response shattered that assumption. This wasn't just celebrity chaos. This was a live demonstration of narrative ownership, power reclamation, and emotional strategy on the largest stage imaginable. And if these cycles continue unchecked, the lesson becomes clear. In modern celebrity, as in life, the battlefield belongs to those who understand timing, leverage, and resilience. And that's where real power quietly shifts, away from the one who strikes first, to the one who refuses to be struck.
He likes to play games with me because he knows I'm not an easy girl.
That line, the timing, the targeting, carries layers most people miss. Offset knew Cardi B isn't someone who silently absorbs disrespect. He knows she fights back, publicly, loudly, devastatingly. And that's why he strikes during the hairline cracks, the moments of vulnerability, the windows where his manipulative games might land. Outside those cracks, her armor is impenetrable. Towering confidence, razor-sharp mouth, and a platform massive enough to expose him in real time. This isn't celebrity drama. Psychologically, it's calculated warfare. Critics may chalk it up to social media theatrics, but the pattern is clear: deliberate timing, repeated targeting, escalation with precision. What elevates this from messy celebrity beef into genuinely dangerous territory are the threats. According to Selena Powell, a FaceTime recording surfaced in which Offset allegedly threatened Stefon Diggs with violent action, shooting, robbery, and humiliation. Let that sink in: explicit, recorded, distributable threats against a professional athlete. This isn't shade. This isn't bravado. This is criminal territory, and public reaction across X, Reddit, and social media confirmed it. Thousands calling him unhinged, dangerously obsessed, warning legal intervention is imminent. Yet as of now, no official restraining orders or lawsuits are on record. The weight of these actions is compounded by history. Powell also alleges that Offset abandoned Cardi during Culture's birth, a cruelty that reframes his infamous "none that I left went up" line as not just delusional, but morally bankrupt. And then came the paternity stunt. Claiming Cardi and Diggs' child was his own on Instagram, immediately deleted, transparently designed to destabilize her new family. Coupled with legal entanglements from the unfinished divorce, it becomes clear this isn't mere post-breakup chaos, it's strategy. Cold analysis shows a pattern of psychological manipulation, timing, threat, and public spectacle to maintain dominance over someone who has repeatedly moved past him. Cardi's response, however, cut through all of it. On Instagram Live, she dismantled the narrative, exposing years of exploitation, highlighting his ego-driven opportunism, and reclaiming the narrative with precision. The message is unmistakable. Calculated threats, paternity stunts, and strategic leaks may attempt to undermine, but they cannot define her. And psychologically, that clarity is what resonates. The person who refuses to fold is the one who ultimately wins the story.
You've been feeling yourself because of your album, and you really been doing me dirty after so many years.
In a separate Instagram Live, Cardi B peeled back the final layers of Offset's manipulation, exposing a pattern that was chilling in its precision. According to her account, he was deliberately FaceTiming her to parade other women, a psychological tactic designed to provoke, to instill jealousy, to destabilize her sense of security. Even after the relationship was legally and emotionally over, even after she had moved on with Stefon Diggs and started a new family. Psychologically, this lands because it demonstrates an obsession with control that transcends personal grievance. It's a calculated attempt to assert dominance over someone whose growth and happiness threatens his ego. Critics may dismiss this as petty or theatrical, but the pattern, repeated over months, transforms it from personal spite into strategic harassment. At a human level, it resonates because anyone who has endured lingering toxicity recognizes the invisible weight of someone trying to weaponize your past vulnerability against your present peace. And the broader implication is clear. Manipulation doesn't retire when the relationship ends. Only the strong, like Cardi, survive it, exposing every move for the world to see.
He's trying to FaceTime me because he's trying to show me the girls that he's been, I guess, or talking.
This is textbook emotional manipulation elevated to its darkest form. Offset never accepted that Cardi B had moved on, that she had built a life beyond his orbit, a family, a career, a legacy he could no longer touch. The FaceTime games, the threats, the paternity stunts, the strategic leaks, all of it was designed to keep her within his emotional gravity, to remind her that no matter how far she ran, he could still land a psychological blow. Critics may dismiss this as celebrity theatrics, but the pattern is unmistakable: obsessive, calculated, dangerous. Public sentiment across platforms now isn't asking who's right or wrong, it's asking whether Cardi is safe. And Cardi responded in a way that defines modern empowerment. A $500,000 Audemars payday watch wasn't vanity, it was self-assertion. $500,000 strapped to her wrist as a declaration. If the men in her life won't honor her worth, she will. She is no longer waiting for validation, no longer letting past hurt dictate her future. Through rumors, viral AI-generated misinformation, astrologer predictions of reconciliation, and the deafening noise of trolls, her message remained clear: focus on children, career, and financial independence. Analysts and cultural commentators alike note that this arc represents more than gossip. It is a mirror of toxic masculinity, cycles of forgiveness turned abuse, and the brutal reality of public relationships in the social media age. Offset's descent, from serial cheater to threatening ex to podcast provocateur, is the cautionary tale of ego refusing to yield. Cardi's journey, from loyal partner to empowered survivor navigating betrayal and public spectacle, is the study of resilience under pressure. The Super Bowl pre-twist, Pri's presence, and Diggs' public fallout were more than coincidences. They were reminders that narrative control and karma intersect in unpredictable ways. As of February 2026, Cardi focuses on herself, her children, and her craft, but the unfinished divorce, custody complexities, and unresolved conflicts ensure the story is far from over. In this saga, the next eruption is never more than one Instagram Live away. And that's where the real question lies. Who will define the next chapter, the one trying to control or the one refusing to be controlled?